the film Resistance. It's a heartfelt and thrilling movie that tells the story of French mime Marcel Marceau's courageous efforts during the Holocaust when he worked with the French resistance to save hundreds of orphans. Actor Jesse Eisenberg, who's well known for playing characters such as Mark Zuckerberg and Lex Luthor, and now he's starring as Marceau in Resistance. He's playing a very different character, a character that has a personal significance for him as well. Our director and producer this evening, Rosh Lowe, spoke to Jesse along with the film's creator, Jonathan Jakubowicz.
In the darkest hour of the Second World War, the famed French mime Marcel Marceau became the unlikeliest hero. Bringing his unique talents to the table, he signed up to join the French resistance.
Why are we fighting a war we can't win? We can kill all the Nazis.
Can kill some.
Or we can save some lives.
Marceau then began smuggling orphaned Jewish children over the Alps to safety in Switzerland. He saved the lives of hundreds. This little-known story of courage in the face of crisis is told in the groundbreaking new film Resistance, created by Jonathan Jakubowicz and starring Hollywood A-lister Jesse Eisenberg as Marceau. Marcel Marceau was so much more than an entertainer. He was a real-life hero.
In every generation, they rise up against us. Sometimes a powerful man, sometimes an army tries to destroy the Jewish people. But here we are, together. You are not alone.
Indeed, we are not alone when we stand for justice. The Algemeiner is pleased to present our 2020 Voice of Humanity Award to the creators, cast and crew of Resistance.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rosh Lowe, and it is an honor to have with me this evening Jesse Eisenberg, the star of the film Resistance, and Jonathan Jakubowicz, who wrote the film, directed the film. And I truly believe that this film, Resistance, is critical for people to see today. We'll start with you, Jesse, and talk about the issue of courage, how one man can, with an act of courage, can literally change the world and save lives. Tell me about that in this film and how important of a message that is for people to hear today.
Well, thank you so much for having us here. Yeah, the movie so beautifully shows an unusual type of courage, a courage that is from the most unlikely source. When you think of a war and you think of the people that emerge as heroes in the war, probably the last kind of person on that list might be mime. And yet it shows that during moments of chaos and during moments of pure terror and instability, there's room for the emergence of unlikely sources of courage. What I love about the movie is that it shows that this artist, Marcel Marceau, this young artist who is kind of, can appear self-absorbed and, and dogmatic about his work, can transform and gain courage during a time when it's demanded of him.
So you played larger-than-life characters: Marcel Marceau, Mark Zuckerberg, Lex Luthor, right?
Yeah.
So 3 larger-than-life characters.
Yeah.
Marcel Marceau, where does he rank up with those other characters?
Let's see. One is hated by comic book fans.
Right.
One is hated by people with internet accounts. And one is beloved by everybody on Earth. So, obviously the one I would open any kind of conversation with would be Marceau.
A film like Resistance is critical on a number of fronts, especially for people to see it and to recognize, as more and more survivors are passing away, to recognize what happened. Tell me about the importance of that as well, Jonathan.
A few months ago, a statistic about more than half of millennials in America have never heard of Auschwitz and don't really know about the Holocaust. And it is easy to this like not realize that, because our generation had a very big impactful education with Schindler's List and with all the movies that came out, and it was very present for all of us. But that was already 20-25 years ago, and it's gotten forgotten, and it's very urgent to remember, not only because it's important for the Jewish people, but also because it is the ultimate warning sign for humanity. We are seeing a rise in intolerance and populism and anti-immigration and racist, and I do feel that we as Jews and as storytellers have a responsibility to tell this story, to remind people of what happened, and to be as loud as possible, no matter how repetitive it may sound, because it's very easy for humans to go there, and it can happen again.
Let's talk about the issue of Jewish identity, because even in the film, you can see this being portrayed. Jesse, how did this film impact your own Jewish identity?
I lost family during the war. I've been obsessed with my family's history during the war because I have a survivor who still lives in Poland, my cousin, who I visit frequently and who I wrote a play about. And so for me, this movie really fused those two things I feel about Jewish culture, both my interest in the war and how it's impossible to kind of sort out and make sense of the horrors of it, as well as what I so love about Jewish culture, which is all of the kind of wonderful curiosities and artistic inclinations and kindness. It turned out to be the most fulfilling experience I'd ever had, because every other job I've done has some kind of material response. And this was purely me helping out with no kind of, ego boost. And it was just the most relaxing, enjoyable experience I've had in my life.
Well, I was born in Venezuela of two parents who were Holocaust survivors, everything seemed great for Jews in Venezuela until Hugo Chavez came to power, and he didn't like Jews, and it started getting complicated. One of the events that most revealed how much he didn't like Jews was the release of my first film, Secuestro Express, which became a very big hit in Venezuela, but Chavez didn't like it. So they opened trials for me, and they were trying to put me in jail for 6 to 10 years for, crazy charges. And they started a campaign in the government media accusing the movie of being part of a Zionist conspiracy against the revolution. And it immediately went there. There is none of the things that we're fighting against hasn't been worse before.
One of the things that we are showing this evening is not only this concept of courage, but also the importance of speaking out about important issues. I'll end it on this before we go back to our evening. If there is somebody sitting out there and they've lost hope, and they feel like they really don't or can't make a difference, what would you tell them, especially after telling this story, about where to find that hope today?
And finding hope in doing what you can. It really comes down to that. You can change one life, you can change one day of the life of someone, and it's it's simply that. Just there's nothing too small, because that small gesture can make a person be a better person, and that person may end up doing something bigger, so there is a ripple effect.
I feel similar to Jonathan. Of course, I would not condemn somebody who feels hopeless, but I would gently say that you're probably looking in the wrong direction. You're looking inward to inspire it from nothing, rather than looking outward to inspire it from something outside of yourself. In this movie, Marcel begins as a kind of as like as a performer, but a deeply anxious performer, because he's performing for people who are unappreciative of his work, and he's self-critical and all of the kind of neuroses that come with being a performer. And once he starts helping the children in this movie, helping others, he is able to kind of see outside of himself, and it relieves him of the tension of the neuroses that come with being an egoist, being a performer, frankly. And so that's certainly been the case in my life, because I've struggled with anxiety for 37 years and 2 months. And and the thing that's the silver bullet for me is kind of reaching out and helping other people. And so I think this movie depicts that as like almost kind of a subtext.
I just want to say to everybody who was involved in making this film, Resistance, thank you so much. Once again, tonight is all about courage. Tonight is all about finding hope where you may not see that there's hope. And one thing that Jesse brought up, I hope everybody can take away from this, is that when you think outside of yourself of how you can help somebody else out, that is the greatest gift of all. So I want to thank you, Jesse and Jonathan, so much.